Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are welcome to the Atmos Room by Benny Macaulay, and you are listening to Project-Atmos by Benny Macaulay, and I'm your host, Benny Macaulay. Yes, Benny Macaulay.
You be my number one, my shekere, my arabanko. Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Bonita lolomo.
What's going on, my G's? Benny Macaulay here, and today we're going to do the mix breakdown for Service. Service is the first track off of the Project-Atmos EP, and Service has become a lot of people's favorite in recent times, and we appreciate that. You guys keep streaming the EP, man. We have to get to 1 billion streams at some point in this lifetime, so keep streaming. Do you understand? So today I'm going to run you through some of the things I did to achieve this mix. I'm going to be very quick, so I'm just going to gloss through most of these things because some of the things that I've talked about here, I've also talked about in my other mix breakdown. But yeah, I'm going to just walk you through some of the things I did, and hopefully you can learn something here that you can use on your next mix. Okay? Without further ado, let's get cracking. If you've ever watched any of my mix breakdown, by now you probably get a sense of how I work, right? First of all, do gain staging. So if any of the sound is too loud, I use a gain plugin at the very, very top of my channel, and then I adjust the gain appropriately so I can have enough headroom to work with. I think for the kick, I'm doing that here as well. See, I've dropped the gain down by -3 dB. And if the sound is too quiet, if it's not loud enough, I'm going to also use a gain plugin to increase the gain so I can get to at least -18 dB on my pre-fader. Very important as well to always activate your pre-fader so you can actually see the correct level of your signal before anything is done to it. If you want to check your pre-fader, you just have to go here, click, you come to customize control bar and display, and then you select pre-fader metering. Once you've done that, this is going to appear here, right? This guy. And then if you click that, you notice we are switching from pre-fader to fader. So now it's pre-fader, now it's post-fader. So the pre-fader shows you the actual level of the signal before processing, and post-fader shows you the level of your signal after processing. The first thing I have here is just the kick. I'm not doing too much to this. Again, I'm doing gain staging and then a little bit of EQ to like create space in the mix where I want the kick to just sit. Conga, a bit of gain staging, again, EQing out what I don't need. That's what I'm doing for all of my drums, basically. Just check to see where I need to do gain staging, and also just using EQ to cut out frequencies that I don't need for that particular sound. And then, I guess the most important thing is to send everything to a bus, and I compress everything to glue the signal together. I'm using the FabFilter Pro C2 compressor here. Let's listen to that. Right? I set to punch, slow attack, because I want the transient to cut through. I've mentioned this before. For drums, you want the transient to cut through, right? That initial snap, because it's a drum. You also want that too for your vocals. And then fast release. So the compressor stops working as soon as it's done its job, right? 2:1. For every 2 dB above my threshold, it drops by 1 dB. Threshold is set to -18. Let's see what that looks like. Right. So I'm basically just affecting the peaks right there. And what else am I doing? I'm not doing any oversampling. I'm not doing any look ahead. In fact, I've also set this to auto gain. Sometimes I don't do auto gain. Yeah, usually I like to see how much gain reduction I'm doing, and then I just compensate by adding gain to it. For some reason, I have auto gain on, and I also did that here. This was obviously a mistake, but it worked. My point is, sometimes mistakes work. Don't come for me. Right. I also have a bus for my bass for this record as well. The bass bus is where I'm sending all the long drums to. And the bass. Right. I don't think I'm doing anything separately to the... Yeah, for the bass, I'm not doing anything safe. I'm just doing like a low shelf around 20 hertz up to -9 dB. And then the log drum, what am I doing here? So for the log drum, I'm doing a low shelf around 20 hertz as well, up to -9 dB. But I'm also boosting around 279 hertz and 1000. So I can boost some of the like higher frequencies on the log drum so it can cut through the mix a little bit more. Right. Right. And then I have a second log drum. Yeah, this one I'm not even doing anything. Right. So sometimes, yeah, mixing is mostly about just really finding the balance between all of your instruments. A balance where everything works perfectly together. And I think sometimes you can actually achieve that without doing so much of compressing and EQing. But where you need to compress, compress. When you need to EQ, EQ, right? Ooh, yeah. Yo. That's what am I doing to guitar? Nothing, just a low shelf. Let me check that sound. That's my favorite sound in this. So what I said about gain staging, where I said when the signal is not loud enough, you boost so you can, get to a good level where everything works perfectly. So what I mean by that, Sha. If you have your signal hitting minus 18 dB at least, minus 18 dB is considered like the sweet spot. Basically, if your signal is hitting minus 18 dB, the idea is all of your plugins will work perfectly because your signal is loud enough to the point where it can fit into your effects properly, right? Let's listen to this. Right. So I'm hitting like minus 16 dB. Yo, this sound my favorite sound in the whole project. What am I doing here? Nothing in terms of EQ. I'm just cutting out the frequencies I don't need. And then what else? Let's check somewhere else. Yeah, with the gain staging, I'm also increasing my gain actually up to like plus 10 so I can get the signal loud enough to where everything's going to work perfectly. Because if your signal is not loud enough, your compressor, for example, is not going to get enough input to work properly. Yo. Again, everything is sent to my instrument bus or melody bus, and I'm compressing. I've set the ratio here to 4:1. Threshold is like minus 22 dB. Slow attack and fast release. Because again, I'm just trying to retain transient for my instrument because that's how you retain punch throughout the whole music. Yo. Yeah, see, I've set the auto gain here to be off because that's technically usually how I work. So I think I boosted up to 2 dB because I'm getting 2 dB of gain reduction at the loudest points. Apart from knowing what to do when you're mixing, I think the most important thing is actually knowing what sounds good or what feels good to you. So once you've achieved something that sounds great to you, and then you can reference with other songs that are out there and you're sure that, you know what, my shit sounds great. And I guess you're good. Sometimes you don't need to do too much. Sometimes you need to do too much. And then sometimes all of the little processing you've done from the production stage will actually get you to the point where you don't have to do too much when you're mixing. What else do we have here? Okay, then I just have my reverb bus from the original FL session. Right. So that's just blending into the beat. Same with the delay. For me, what I go. And I think this is a drum bus from the original FL session. Right. And I'm using it in the song to just add that little bit of parallel compression effect to give extra ginger to the beat or to the drums. So now if I add this drum bus from FL, you see how it just comes to life a little bit. And take it out. Dulls down. But right, so that's that. And then again, same thing with my original melody bus from FL. Right, I'm blending it into the overall mix to give the instrument extra body or extra depth, if you will. For the lead vocals, I think my vocal chain is actually very straightforward. There's a philosophy that I work with that I highlighted in the other mix breakdown I did. You have to fix problems first. That's why at the top of my vocal chain, we have the noise suppressor in case there's noise. You take that out. And then you take out the bad annoying frequencies, right? I like to use the FabFilter Pro Q3 EQ for that, right? Because it has this dynamic EQ feature. You can basically do this with any other EQ that's a dynamic EQ sharp, but this is what I like to use because you can sort of like different frequency points that you're trying to work on. You can hear all of that sharp, annoying frequency. That's what I took out from there. I have a video on the channel where I showed you how to actually do this from scratch, and I'm going to leave a link here. So like I said, fix problems first. Noise suppressor in case there's noise, bad annoying frequencies, and then you go to DSing. This is our DSR from Wave. Very easy and straightforward to use. I've set the DSR to capture sibilance from around 4,800 and up, and then threshold minus 45 dB, range is minus 15. Range is just how much you want to reduce the sibilance when the DSR finds it. So solve problems, remove noise, remove bad frequency, remove sibilance, and then you start to shape the tone of the vocal. vocals. I'm using the SSL channel strip, but I'm only using the EQ part. So I've cut up to 9 dB, around 270 hertz, and then for the low mid I've done a cut as well up to -4 dB, around 890 hertz as well. And then I've set the bell to be a wider bell, right? So I just increased the max. So I guess if I'm doing my cut, it would be like a much wider bell, but that's also why I'm not doing too much cut there as well, because it's like taking off a lot. You have to be very careful with your mids, because that's the part of any signal that the human ear can really pick up, right? So you have to make sure you're not destroying your mids. You just have to tame it so that your vocals can blend properly with the music, right, with the beat. And then I've also done a cut up to -3 dBs, around 3000 kilohertz as well, because that's usually where there's like harshness in vocals. On the higher frequency, I've boosted up to 6 dB to add that shine, that air to the vocals, around 16 kilohertz. So at the very top of the frequency range, you shape your vocals and then you go to compressing, because again, this is to even out your performance, right? I'm using UAD 1176 compressor for this. This is my favorite, compressors for vocal actually. It's a fixed ratio compressor, so there's no ratio. You just drive in your input. The more input you drive in, the more compression you get. Slow attack so that I don't kill my transient, but fast release. So the compressor stops compressing as soon as it's done its job. Set the ratio to 4:1, right? Let's listen.
Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Monita lolomo, cause I don't they call her my sweet momo.
You notice that when it gets to the quiet parts of the performance, there's almost no compression happening. So it's really just taming the picks.
Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Monita lolomo, cause I don't they call her my sweet momo.
I also like to do compression in series. What that means is you just use more than one compressor, so you're not putting all the heavy lifting on one compressor alone. So this is my first compressor. And the second one, I'm using an LA2A from UAD as well to now even out the performance even some more. So this is what is going to bring the vocal like to the front of the mix, right? Let's listen to that.
Girl, put your body up on me. What I go,
Before.
Cause I don't they call her my sweet momo. Oh, mama. Girl, I've never been in loving.
I've set the peak reduction to up to like 40 dB and just set the gain to match.
Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Monita lolomo, cause I don't they call her my sweet momo.
This compressor sounds very good as well. I love the tone. And it's also the mix knob here, so I'm doing like a 50-50 blend between the original signal coming to the compressor and then the compressed signal. And that's what is going to the output. That's what you're hearing right now. Okay. I have the FabFilter Pro MB multi-band compressor. This one is to just make sure that everything is perfect, right? So let's listen with the music, and I'm going to do before and after with the multi-band compressor on.
You be my number one, my shekere, my arabanko. Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Monita lolomo, cause I...
Yeah, if you noticed, a lot of frequencies spread around the low and the low mid that were just like jumping all over the place, competing with the low and the low mid frequencies on the instrumental. With the multi-band compressor, I'm able to tame that, right? Because I'm not trying to remove them. I'm just trying to just tame them a little bit so like they can just dock inside the music. And that's why when you listen with the multi-band on, it sounds really smooth, right? So let's take it off again.
Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Monita lolomo, cause I don't they call her my sweet momo.
Here's the difference.
Oh, mama. Girl, I've never been in loving.
You can hear the difference. It's so clean. That's like in my opinion, the last essential sauce to achieving a very nice and clean vocal. And then the last thing on my vocal chain is this Pro DS DSR from FabFilter. This is just to capture all of the extra sibilants that would have built up due to all of the processing we've done so far. But I've also set it to catch sibilants from around 4,000 kilohertz up to 9,000 kilohertz.
Girl, put your body up on me. What I go, Monita lolomo, cause I don't they call.
Yeah, I love how it just smoothens up the sibilants, right? So I have my reverbs and my delay as usual. The way I like to work is I like to have a room reverb first, the main reverb, and then my delay. The room reverb basically is a very short reverb just to create that little cushion between the vocals and the music. It's a very short reverb time and short pre-delay time. And for the main reverb, I'm using H reverb. I actually like this reverb a lot. Again, calculate your proper reverb time and then you get your proper delay. I think I'll leave a link here as well. The video I made on how to calculate this thing. Some people find it confusing, but trust me, it's very easy. And then for my delay, my favorite delay, Comeback Kit by Baby Audio, right? Very straightforward, quarter note delay, set straight, feedback is 20, ping pong, so it goes left to right. I like that it has this ducker feature as well. It kind of like ducks the reverb whenever the vocal is playing, right? But there's also something I like to do. I mean, I like to automate my delays, right? So yeah, so I've done that here. So there's certain points in the music where I've increased the delay.
Cause I don't call her my sweet momo. Girl, I've never been in love. Is it the way you shake it?
Right. I think it's very important to do that, by the way, so that you can keep the music very, very interesting. And then I have a different bus for my backup, and I have a different bus with similar but different processing as well for the hook. Something I want to show you that's very important if you are mixing choir vocals, like everybody's doing nowadays, right? Ashake.
Is it the way you shake it? Oh, the bottom of my is racing. Oh,
yeah. So you can hear that there's a lot of reverb, but the reverb is not competing with the vocals, and the reverb seems to come after the vocal. So there's a few ways you can achieve this. Let me show you. One of the first way to do this is to ensure that you have a long enough pre-delay time, since, you know, this is going to be like a huge reverb. That's why my pre-delay is set to 87 milliseconds. Also, that's after you've done your calculation to get the correct reverb time and then pre-delay time, right? But you want a long pre-delay time, first things first. But after that, there's a trick I'm using to make sure that the reverb is not overpowering the vocal, and that's just sidechaining. So I've sidechained the vocal itself to the reverb. So that way, when the vocal is playing, the reverb is going to be ducked down a little bit. So the reverb will just be like underneath the vocal instead of on top of the vocals. And in this case, my bus 8 is also summing bus for the choir vocals. I'm going to come to that in a bit and explain to you what that's also doing, right? Yeah, so I'm sidechaining the vocal bus, that's the choir bus, to the reverb. So let's listen to what that looks like. Right, and for the setting, what I'm doing here is I've set the ratio to 7:1. So for every 7 dB above my threshold, it drops by 1 dB. And I've set the threshold to minus 32.5 dB. Also fairly slow attack, around 20 milliseconds. And then I've set a slow release because I want the compressor to hold on to the compression while the vocal is playing. If you look at the compressor, you see that the needle is still hanging. That means the compressor is still compressing. Right, so the compressor is just holding that compression, right? Making sure that the reverb is constantly ducked behind the vocal as long as the vocal is playing. So that's what's happening here. I'm not doing any makeup gain because the point is not to add anything. It's just to control the reverb. Another thing that I'm doing here as well is on the summing bus, I'm using the ProMB multiband compressor to also do some multiband compression around 3000. At this point, around 2800 hertz. Now, that is because my lead vocals is also on that frequency range, right? So by doing this, I'm ensuring that the choir doesn't overpower the lead vocal. So let's listen to that.
Is it the way you shake it, oh? The bottom of my is racing, oh, show. Break it, oh, make it carry my correct service, oh, yeah. Girl, I'm at your service, oh. Anything you want, girl, you can have it, oh. If you like, you can have it, oh.
So doing that creates a very, very perfect blend between the lead vocals and all of the choir and the backups, and everything just sounds great. Now for the setting, yeah, what I'm doing is very fast attack and very slow release, so that when the compression kick in on that frequency range, it holds that compression. It keeps the choir and the backup below the lead on that frequency range. So they're not competing, you know, they're not struggling to share the same frequency range, right? Even though they are there, one is louder than the other. So they can exist perfectly together as husband and wife. No fighting. All right, the ratio is what? 4:1. I'm doing a softening here so that, you know, the transition from compressed to compressed is not like abrupt, it's like smooth. And then the range is set to minus 5 dB. So if you do this, or if you try this, you are sure to get a very smooth and clean mix when you're mixing choirs, right? Or when you're mixing like a crowd type vocals like everybody's doing nowadays. I've also automated the delay for the chorus part so that, you know, when you get to that last phrase, ooh, oh, you know, you can have more delays to like highlight those parts. Okay, there's this break.
Baby girl, you're the best thing.
Yeah, for that break, I made sure I've automated the level of the reverb and delay so that part can be like totally quiet. So it goes,
baby girl, you're the best thing.
Right, to create that tension and release. Ooh, I did here as well. Like for this part, you can hear that you can hear the delay go back and forth, left and right. I automated the feedback of the delay to increase as the song plays. It just keeps going. I also set the delay to an 8 note delay here. That's why I've labeled that ad-lib delay 1/8 is an 8 note. I also have a hook delay that's an 8 note. I like to label my things out like this so that I know what I'm doing. I know where everything is at. So that's it though. I think that's everything I did on the song. Yeah, that's everything I've done in the song. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section below. Thank you guys for streaming the Project-Atmos EP. Keep streaming. And then if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. I'm almost at 2K subs. Once I get to 2K, we do another giveaway. Now understand. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, click that notification bell so you know when the next video drops, right? And then for those of you that have asked about what I use, the gear that I use and stuff, I have links below to all of the gear in this Dolby Atmos studio, as well as some links you can benefit from, right? So if you need inspiration, go to these links. If you want to buy from those links and support my little channel so I can make small money, okay? So I can keep making videos like this. All right, so I guess that's going to be all for now. I'm going to come back again and walk you through the master breakdown for this. It's pretty straightforward. So that's going to be it for now. Ben Macaulay out.